Patriots to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in. What a comeback.
All right, welcome back to the 28-3 podcast. Corey here with Max and Nick. We're doing this one remote, and we are here to recap another loss by the Saints. We had some hope that maybe coming off a win we could get one, but yet again it's another 20-something to teens-something loss by the Saints. It seems kind of like Groundhog's Day, at least for the games we're losing. So we're make this kind of a quick one as we go through it. Trying to think. Nick, were you at the game? I was about to say Max and I were there, but
no, I was traveling, so
there.
I was headed out of town, so I was not at the game, unfortunately.
I hear you. Well, let's start with the one person not named me who was at the game. So, Max, what were your thoughts? Being there in person, seeing everything unfold right before your eyes. What you got for us?
Yeah, I think like most of the games this year, with the one exception in Seattle, it was a competitive, scrappy performance. We were obviously in the game pretty much the whole time this week. It actually, I thought for a minute we were going to pull off the second straight win. You know,
Yeah,
um, but then Jawan fumbled away any hope, and
yeah,
that was pretty much it. Rattler, to me, was his best game. I don't think any of us can sit here and say that Rattler was the reason that we lost. He played well enough. He was let down by just about all the skill position talent around him. Jawan Johnson with a fumble. Olave, I don't even know how many drops he had, but it was multiple. And, he probably should
yeah,
have had a fumble on that one by the sideline, but they ruled that incomplete. But that one should have been a catch and a fumble. But,
yeah. I'll jump in
either way,
real quick
man.
here. I saw a stat that on the Olave piece, and then I'll shut up. The out of Rattler's 6 incompletions, 4 were to Olave.
Yeah, he was bad. And
Yeah,
it's crazy because he started off the game with a long catch. He had a 50-yard catch, and it's like, okay, maybe this is the game. They get in sync, and Olave has a 100-yard game and maybe a touchdown or two. But no, man, it was just frustrating to watch. And I think it's just illuminated that we don't have anyone on offense who is a difference maker. When your go-to guy is still Kamara, and he was the go-to guy in 2018, 2019, it's 2025. Like
yeah,
it's time for someone else to step up. I thought this was the week that Kendra might get on track, but to be fair, the Patriots actually do pretty well against the run. But against the pass was their weakness, and we still couldn't really exploit it. But we don't have anybody in a skill position that you can depend on to step up when we need a big play. It's not like back in the day where you could count on Michael Thomas to make any tough catch. You could count on Kamara, or going back even further, like Pierre Thomas or Sproles or Jimmy Graham or any of those guys. We just don't have that at all now. This team, I think, should be pretty active around the trade deadline. I really do think we should offload some of these guys that we know aren't going to be the long-term fits. I know Nick noticed this and he was texting me about it, that Pete Werner kept getting pulled out. It seemed like every other drive they would shuffle Stutzman in. And, I hate to go ahead and move to defense, but I'll just give you all my thoughts all at once. And so we got to see Stutzman get some run with the first team. I think they threw
hmm
Stallbird in for a possession or two as well. But to me, that's the writing on the wall. I don't think Pete Werner's going to be here after the trade deadline. Olave, I don't see any way in hell they're thinking about a long-term extension with him, in the high 20s, low 30s range, which he's probably asking for. It just feels
yeah,
like we need just a huge influx of talent across the board, whether it's offense, defense, special teams. We just need more talent. And I think the only way to get that is to get more draft picks. So I think you're going to see them be pretty active at the trade deadline. There's been a lot of chatter about Olave since the game yesterday.
yep,
Um, I think it's a matter of time for
yeah,
him, Werner, maybe Granderson, because he probably has the most value of any of our players right now.
yeah.
that would realistically be available for trade. And I think we all just got finished watching the Bills lose to Atlanta. And look, the Bills need help, and their window is probably closing, and they need help at wide receiver. They need help at pass rusher. They need help at linebacker. So I would love for the
Yeah,
Bills to call the Saints up and just say, "Hey, give us Granderson, Warner, and Olave, and what could deal out there." But I
we'll
don't know,
give
man.
you
It's just it
a
was it was it
third.
was it was encouraging to see him be competitive yet again. That's all you can ask for. The alternative is you can be the Jets. And Nick was texting me about this, and the Jets are a fucking just they're an embarrassment right now.
Yeah,
Aaron Glenn, my God, it looks like we dodged a massive bullet on that one. He does not look equipped to be a head coach right now. Now, to be
yeah,
fair, Dan Campbell kind of had that same deer in the headlights look his first season, but I don't know, man. I'm happy with Kellen Moore. I'm happy with the competitiveness, the scrappiness. This team is one of the worst teams in the league, but I think it's more of a talent thing than it is a coaching thing. So I
absolutely.
just think, they're I feel like there's more hope associated with the Saints than there is with the Jets or even the Browns or someone like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because the Jets don't have shit. We
yeah,
all love Justin Fields as a fantasy football quarterback, but you can't be optimistic looking at him as a long-term quarterback.
yeah. He
And
hasn't proven
obviously,
that
I
he
don't
can
think,
lead a team yet.
yeah, and I don't think, we have a long-term answer a quarterback either on the team right now. We haven't seen Shuck. We've seen Rattler take positive steps forward, but he to me he's still not the guy, and I think you guys share that opinion. But I think there's more reason for optimism with the Saints
Yeah,
right now.
I was going to say I think it was Ralph Marlboro that tweeted it, but he had a good point where he was like, you have to be pleased with Kellen Moore, and if you're not, fine, we're 1-5. But if you're not pleased with Kellen Moore, just consider for a moment what it would have been if we had hired one of the other guys. Like, so to your point on Glenn, and it just like every game you watch, it really does seem like Kellen's coaching his ass off, and it's just a matter of the players letting him down at this point. And I guess you could go either. Some people I'm sure could go either way on that. But when I look at it, I think he is doing a good job coaching. Obviously, it's not perfect. Maybe you could say it's far from perfect, but I think when you get to the criticisms of Kellen Moore right now, you kind of have to get into like the nitpicking category when you're really criticizing him. He's making the obvious rookie head coach mistakes here and there. Whether it's time management, whether it's maybe holding the red challenge flag instead of throwing it, whether it's punting on fourth down instead of trying to go for it certain times. But I think overall, like he's got the right approach. We've unlike what we saw in the Dennis Allen era, even with Kubiak, and then even going back to Carmichael, Moore's when things have been bad, he said he's going to change something. It actually happens. Like he's actually changed stuff. He's actually taken more deep shots, or we had too many penalties. He said we're going to reduce them. The next week, reduced by like over 100%. So,
Well, they
um,
were back this week, so uh, you know I'm mixed emotions on Kellen Moore. I think there's I can't disagree that the game plan makes sense for the roster, right? But I think Max touched
yeah,
on how bad the roster is, and that goes back to Loomis, which we've exhausted, so we don't have to go back to that anymore. This roster sucks. It's terrible. It's bottom five in the league. I cannot see an argument from anyone that would say otherwise. It's a bad roster. That's really the problem. And when you can't spend money on the roster because you're spending it on dead money, that's what happens. And this was arguably Alavi's best game of the season, and it was terrible.
right.
He was awful. Okay, those are catches not elite wide receivers make. Those are catches decent wide receivers make.
Yeah,
Okay, the fumble Max reference that would have been a spectacular catch. I'll give him a pass on that one. That would have been an unbelievable catch. That was not something I don't consider it a drop. I don't. He fumbled it. It was a fumble. If they challenge it, it's a fumble. Max is right. But that was a very difficult play. The one in the end zone, that's a catch 90% of receivers make.
yeah,
Not good receivers. 90% of receivers in the league make that catch. The deep ball over his outside shoulder to the sideline, perfect throw by Rattler.
Yeah,
Perfect.
just locate the ball.
Locate the ball. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what great receivers do. They locate that ball, they make a play on it, they catch that ball. That is a perfect throw.
And when you talk about like just regular receivers making it, you saw it in Tampa where Tez Johnson had that catch, and it was like almost the exact, it was in the middle, not the corner, but he's a regular
Same
dude
catch.
making that catch. He didn't.
He's
have to
not
be
on the roster without injuries. Okay.
No.
That guy's not on the roster if they don't have injuries. And
Yeah.
he makes that catch. And our superstar we traded a ton of picks for couldn't make the catch. That's the bottom line. And he has never made that catch when it really counted.
Yeah.
Since he's been here, and it's 4 years in. So we have to accept what he is. Trading him, like Max said, you can't be against it because you can't pay that guy $30 million. You just cannot pay him $30 million. To be fair, no one else made a play either. Jawan, Rattler, that was his best game. I know I picked him as MVP, but still, he played almost a flawless game. Okay, and I didn't see that in it coming at all. I just thought we were going to throw the ball a lot because they were a weak team against the pass. So I thought Kellen was going to be strategic about attacking that secondary, which he was. The plays were there to be made. There's no doubt about it. And he delivered the ball. I told Max I can only fault him on one throw, and it was that late crossing route in the fourth quarter where he threw it in double coverage. One throw. That's it. Right. Every other throw was the right throw.
Yeah.
And we, again, couldn't score 20 points. And this time it wasn't on Rattler. No question. Now, you can blame him for not finishing drives. The same story. We're kicking field goals way too often. We're not finishing enough drives in the red zone. That's fair. Okay. You can criticize him there. There wasn't a bad play on Rattler's resume other than one pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even the one that to Vele that was called back. I mean, that was a great read, great throw,
perfect
cutting,
third and long,
threw it when 100%. He had to, and I was so pissed about the holding because I was watching it from the opposite end zone with Charlie Dunn. Shout out Charles for joining us for the game over from Scotland. It was a fun time with him, but we were sitting together and we were like, damn man, it's like you look at where he caught it and it's right in front of you, so you're like, where he caught it to where we're snapping it, that was a 30-yard penalty. It's just But it was
a perfect play.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Banks didn't need a hold on the play. He really didn't. Bradler was coming up in the pocket. He was climbing. It was going to be fine. Rookie mistake. Yeah. And I'll say the biggest disappointment of this game for me is the rookies took a massive step back, especially defensively. Riley and Sanker were so bad. It was unbelievable.
The first touchdown was not good.
Just a mess. The penalties saved us. Drake May had a 400-yard game that isn't on the stat sheet because those two penalties we know as Saints fans, we never get those calls. Never. Those two calls are never called. And that was I think a 61-yard touchdown and a 52-yard bomb on those two. I mean, that's 113 more yards on Drake May. Yeah. There was so many more plays out there. The secondary was atrocious.
We weren't slowing down Drake May. Drake May was the only thing keeping himself from
and the rest
passer rating,
right?
And the rest,
Yeah. And so while I feel like we played a really tough, tight game, it shouldn't have been a tight game. It should have been a blowout. Yeah. To have a touchdown called off the board, another one down inside, I think the 15 on a third and long, that would have been points. We hung in there. You got to give us credit. But again, the offense scored 19. The defense got destroyed in the pass game. It was just complete. It was embarrassing. And the one thing I'm going to say about Rattler to the negative, while I believe that was his best game, if you're a common fan and you watch that game and you don't realize the difference between Drake May and Spencer Rattler, I don't think you understand football. That's two different players, okay? That's a guy who he went to a second read, third read, made big plays. And we've got a guy who is a first. Still, this was a perfect game for him. It was all first read stuff again. It was open. It was schematically great by Kellen Moore. Those passes were open. He designed the plays. It was a great game plan. I loved it. Mm-hmm. I thought it was great. But when plays were there to be made, Drake improvised, and you did not see Spencer improvise. Not one time. There was no make something happen when shit was chaotic. There's still none of that we've seen, and I think that's the biggest question mark. Can the guy get off his first read? Can he get to a
Yeah.
second and third progression, make plays in that style to be a Drake May level? Because we all know Drake May today is not a top 5 quarterback, but there's a big gap in those two players today.
Yeah.
And he's younger, he's better. Can Spencer get there? We all hope so, because that would be amazing for this franchise to get a quarterback in the 5th round. But as good as that game was for Spencer Rattler, you also saw what elite quarterback play looked like for for the
and
game.
it's funny. It's funny because PFF, everyone's favorite. Sometimes, oh yeah, look, they graded this person high. Go that player. And other times it's like, what the fuck are they thinking? It's the ultimate, and you can use it for or against your argument. They gave Rattler a higher grade than Drake May in that game.
Right.
Somebody
And if
explain that to me.
you
Well, it's
watch
just
the
like
game, you know that's bullshit.
It's just
Yeah,
like they
I
have
mean,
a
Drake
Olave
May was
registered with 0 catches. I mean, 0 drops.
0 drops, yeah, and Drake
Right.
May was flawless in that first half. We were sitting there watching it. Obviously, from our viewpoint, it's hard to see the other side of the field, and there was that drive, and it was the one that they got to 3rd and 31, I think it was. Because they
Yeah.
kept having the penalties. When it was 2nd and 21, I looked at Alex. I said, the Saints would hand the ball off on a draw play here just to get better
No question.
positioning to punt. What does Drake do? I'm like, this is where you're going to see the difference between a potentially great quarterback and an average quarterback, or a
Mhm.
potentially average quarterback. Drake drops back, flings a 50-something yard pass, complete. Called back for a bullshit penalty. It's 3rd and 31. I said, they're going to do it again. They're
Yep.
not going to fucking hand it off. He drops back, bombs another 40-something yard pass, and it was almost complete. Because the ball was landing pretty much on our side of the field where we were. And that's the difference. Like when you have one of these quarterbacks, and he doesn't have a dominant wide receiver. Like Stephon Diggs had a big game the previous week, non-existent yesterday. Somebody
Yeah.
named Douglas, I don't
And
even know his
and
first name, was going nuts.
Yeah.
and
I
he's
said the
coming
same
off
thing.
ACL too, right? So we
Yeah.
can't call Diggs elite Diggs yet. He's coming off
Right.
ACL from last year, so he's still got some time to become. We'll see if he can get back to his old level, but he is for sure not an elite player today.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's also some inside baseball too with like why it is that Drake appears to be on such a different level than Spencer. And because
It's
just the
not
fact that he
appears, he is.
no, but I mean, like when I say appears, I mean you actually see it. It's more than just what you see on the field, because the reason he's able to show you that he's different is because his coach trusts him to have those play calls out there, to have those options take
Right.
down the field
And
that
Corey,
allows him to make
it's
those throws. With us, everyone's like, well, Rattler arguably has just as good of an arm as Drake May. Rattler's mobile. He's escaping the pocket. It's like he's escaping the pocket, but he's not improvising like you said, Max. He can escape, sure. He can run, sure. He's got a strong arm, sure, but his options aren't out there on the play calls because Kellen knows he can't quite do that yet. But with
Corey,
Drake,
there was proof of
it's all
this in
open.
the game. I text Max when it happened. If you remember, I think we got a penalty. We went back to about 3rd and 15. And we
Mhm.
throw a check down, I think, to Kamara for 5 yards to kick a field goal when we were already in field goal range. And I text Max and said,
Yeah.
that's a coach that doesn't trust his quarterback.
Yep.
Because if you're already in field goal range, you're not checking down for 5 yards to make it a 44-yarder instead of a 49-yarder. You're
Going for the
trying to get the
sticks.
first down. Right.
Yep.
100%. So that tells you Kellen Moore feels a certain way about Spencer. And it's like, okay, if I can keep him in his lane and not let him lose the game, we'll have a chance to win the game. And to his credit, we've had a chance to win all games but one. He hasn't been wrong about that. But it also tells you that Spencer is not at the level of a Drake May or whoever else you want to compare him to, where the coach trusts him to make that throw and not make a mistake, right?
Yeah. And I think that yeah, like you said, that shows it's like there's a reason we have these one score games. There's a narrative of like, is it frustrating when you're only down, when you're losing by one? And it's like, well, when I hear that, I'm like, well, of course it seems like it's frustrating, but especially this past game, this did not seem like a one score game. When we were down 14-6 in the fourth quarter, I mean, in the first quarter, I was like, it seems like we are down by so much more right now than we are. And, but yeah, I mean, it's like, can your QB do it? And I think but the reason I bring up the fact that we keep it close, I think, is another little piece of evidence for how Kellen's coaching this team, and I think his restraint in how he's handling Spencer or the playbook in general is helping us stay close in these games and at least giving us a chance to be within spitting distance at the end. Because if he was just saying fuck it and opening up the playbook, then you're going to have Spencer making these mistakes. Then you're going to say, well, it looks like he took a step back this week. And it's
let me ask you a question, because Max and I just discussed this. To your point, 100%. Now that we're 1-5, that's essentially we're done, right? As far as a playoff run is concerned.
Yeah.
I think you have to take the training wheels off of Rattler to see, right? Now that I agreed with the approach because you're trying to bring Rattler along, but once you're 1-5, now we need to know if Rattler can be the guy. Let's take the training wheels off. No holds barred. Let's call the full playbook. Let's open it up. Let's see what he does, how he deals with the interception, how he deals with, turmoil. So many things that Kellen has protected him from. I think it's time to unleash it, because we still have 11 games to find out what Spencer Rattler is. And by playing this game plan, I don't think we can fully find out what Spencer Rattler is.
Yeah, at least, yeah. And if you're not going to take him all the way off, like, just it's got to be bigger increments at this point. I do think we've seen him continue his steps forward, but it's like, if he keeps going at this pace, because we could pretty confidently say, keeping the Seattle game as an outlier, that every next game he's done better than the last. And, and usually, like in a vacuum in the textbook, you would say, were you better than you were yesterday? Yeah, good job, dude. Keep going. But the improvements are so small at this point that it's like, yeah, I think that's a good analogy. Just like take the training wheels off, and if you can't play big boy football with the training wheels off, then maybe you know something. But there's always, coaches want to win games, and if Kellen thinks this is the way to actually pull one out week by week, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does.
Right. I just think once the playoffs are out of the equation, it's time to figure out what you have. And I would say, if not for Olave, he probably does have his first 250-yard game this week. It would have been. But
yeah, no, it absolutely would have been. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, he ends up with 220 plus, 0 touchdowns in what we're all saying is his best game.
Yeah.
That's
also
wild.
I love how we've been harping on the receivers over 10 yards in average. And Olave's got a 16.3 yard average this game, but he was the worst guy. The worst basketball.
Look, it's a guy who did not make a play that was difficult at all. He didn't make a single play.
I'm surprised you didn't have the stats ready to go, but for the long pass, his stats were blank. You're usually pretty good at that.
Well, we did it. Kamara had a 20-yard catch. I have him. Kamara had a 21, I think. 21-yard. It was a shorter pass, but it turned into 21 yards. And then we had one other longer pass, but
Cooks.
We threw 2 more. Yeah, Cooks had the 20, and that was a great throw. That was an excellent throw by Spencer.
Put it low on purpose.
I think I think it was maybe his best throw of the day. But we also did push it, because the one to the end zone was a 30-plus yard in the air throw.
Yep.
The one over his outside shoulder on the sideline was over a 30-yard throw. Those plays were there, and Spencer threw them this time. He did, and they were catchable balls. And
I'll say this. I meant to say at the beginning, I think this was the first one where I came away thinking, okay, Spencer did well. Kellen Moore did well with the play calling. Everybody else let them down. Before, it was a mix of both. I think there were tons we've talked about it in the past weeks, where if Rattler leads the guy, or if Rattler has a more accurate pass, then it's a different story. Or Kellen Moore could have been more aggressive on his play calling. This was, to me, the first one where it was 100% on everybody else.
I agree. I think he had one inaccurate pass out of the 26. That's how I feel. I think he played as flawless as he could play from the play calling. I think it was his best game. Yet again, we're left with 19 points. So I don't know what to make of that. That's tough to explain when he plays that well and we end up with 19 points.
Well, hey,
because
so
I didn't even lock
know,
us in to score 20. So
just so you guys know, Olave is still not averaging 10 yards a catch. We're up to
Wow.
I think.
8.8 though. We're up to
Yeah.
8.8.
Well, he took a
That's
50-yard play and turned it into 8 for 98. So he had 7 more catches for 30 something yards. I mean, it's not great. The first play was awesome. I mean, but
10
he's getting a
targets too.
lot right. 10 targets. That's opportunity, and you know, good throws too. You cannot knock Rattler on the
yeah.
throws this week. You
And let
just
me say
can't.
this: we've done our fair share of being harsh on Rattler, but I definitely want to give him his flowers here. Look, fifth round pick. He has shown that he can start games in the NFL and not be an embarrassment. Like he's in the back half of starters in the league, but there's a couple of guys that are starting games right now that I would probably take Rattler over if you put a gun to my head. So for the fact that we got that out of a fifth round pick, that's a pretty damn good pick. Like that fifth round pick was a home run pick because you got a quarterback who is actually starting games in the NFL and has shown that he's going to stick in the NFL at the very least as a long term backup. But he's going to get
What is
some
it?
spot starts and all
Yeah.
that, which is so that pick was a home run, and we got to give Rattler his credit when it's due, and he has made baby step improvements. I just don't think it's at the rate that it needs to be to hold off Shuck for much longer, given that the playoffs, as Nick said, are pretty much out the window. And, it's not like any of us expected to make the playoffs this year. We all knew this is going to be an
No,
extended preseason, as we've said. But to Nick's point, we do need to see the training wheels come off. We need to see if Rattler can come out and be the guy who can throw for 300 yards. Because if he's not, we got to see if Shuck can do it. Now, it's coming up on Shuck time. And now
Well,
whether Rattler's not. I don't think the wheels are gonna fall off. Although I do think Dennis Allen this week is gonna have a little extra sauce on his defensive calls. Like he's gonna be out to
oh yeah.
embarrass his team. You know that. So he's gonna bring the house against Rattler. So this one might be that first one since the Seahawks game that has the potential to get kind of rough because the Bears, we've seen Caleb have a good game or two. Our secondary's bad. And if Sanker and Riley and the rest of those guys and Kool-Aid are going to play like they did this past week, Caleb
Yeah.
Williams might light us up. And
And what have we
DA
shown?
is
Like
DA is chomping at the bit
we've shown
to fucking
we're
push out Dixon.
horrible at the broken plays too. So yeah,
Yeah,
Caleb being the
and that
king of
that
the
is
broken
Caleb
play.
Williams' whole game. He's a,
Right.
he's a backyard sandlot quarterback. That's his whole game. Is running around and somebody gets open, and he chucks it up. But man, I'm curious to see what happens this week because I think Dennis Allen, and look, for all the shit we gave Dennis Allen as a head coach, he is an amazing defensive coordinator. And that dude he's gonna have that motivation to show us up. I promise you.
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
he's gonna be blitzing like 70% of the time.
And
Just
look, he
because.
knows that roster. Because there's only a
Yeah.
couple of new guys in the starting lineup. Like Kelvin Banks is obviously new. The rest of that offensive line, he knows those guys. He knows the
Yep.
wide receivers. Other than Cooks, I mean, I'm sure he's seen. He was a coach on the team when we drafted Cooks,
I
I
was about to
think.
say
So he's seen
probably
him.
knows Cooks pretty
Yeah.
well too.
So look, Da knows this roster inside and out. He's going to know the weaknesses to attack on the offensive line. He's going to know how to handle those wide receivers. And this one might be one of those. This is the Dennis Allen revenge game, and it might get ugly.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you're not even mentioning Ben Johnson on the other side, where it's like if he watches this tape, he's probably drooling just looking
Oh,
how
there's
easily
talent. There's
confused
talent all over
our
the
guys
place on
were.
this Bears offense, man. You
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
you got three receivers, you got a couple of running backs, you got a couple of good tight ends. The quarterback, I mean, we'll see if he ends up getting it together, but
Look,
he's got
I'm
the
not a
talent.
Caleb fan at all. I'm not a Caleb fan. Y'all know that. But when you have Roma Dunes, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, Swift, you've got a defense that is very good. I know we don't like DA, but that defense is a very talented group. They just beat
Yeah.
Washington, by the way, on a last second field goal.
Wow.
Did they?
To, yeah,
Jesus.
to circle back to what Max said about Rattler, there's no debate how great of a pick a fifth round pick is for a guy who you are debating whether he's a starter or not. That is a home run quarterback pick in the 5th round. No doubt. Great pick. I think he'll be here for a long time. We don't know what the role will be. But the fact that you're even debating him as a starting quarterback is a credit to him and good for him. This is what we hoped for when we draft him. We all talked about it. Even though we've been negative on him as a future starter or franchise leader, you can't knock what the dude's done professionally and come in here, and he's earned a roster spot for a decade in the league. While I disagree with Max on Hainer, I don't think there's any debate on Rattler at this point.
Yeah.
Rattler for sure is going to be in this league for 10 years because you're debating whether he's a starter right now. That's incredible for a second-year 5th-round pick. So I don't want to be negative on Rattler at all. I just think when you're talking about the gap between being a top 15 starter in the NFL, which is what you need to win a Super Bowl. And if you're not trying to win a Super Bowl, you're wasting your time, right? The gap between that top 15 and what is behind it is large. It's a big gap because we're talking about Drake May, who might be 10, 12, 14 in the league, pending who you talk to. And that's a huge difference from what
He's higher than
Spencer
that
is
now.
today.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I think if you put it on paper, you're going to be around 10, probably.
Well, you just said it. It's maybe. He's still maybe. Like next week, we'll see what he does.
Yeah.
Still Drake maybe.
Drake maybe. And Max has loved him for a really long time. I said I never watched him. I really didn't watch him in North Carolina. I have no clue what he was coming out. When you watch him work out, you could obviously see the guy could sling it. But plenty of guys can sling it. And he from last year to this year, there's been a massive jump. It hasn't been a small jump. It's been a big jump for Drake May this year.
Well, I was going to say, because last year, how would you compare the way he looked last year to Rattler this past week?
He was better because here's the deal. I'm looking at Drake May's stats right now. Rookie year, he threw 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions.
10 picks, 10 picks.
10 picks. But the thing is, though, that team had no fucking talent. Now, they picked Will Campbell this year, so now you have your franchise left tackle. They went and got Stephon Diggs. So they've beefed up the supporting cast around him. And now he's responded. He's already got 1,522 yards, which is only 700 yards off of last year's total. 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, which is a fantastic start. So he's taken that step, 73% completion percentage. And more
73 is
importantly,
crazy.
they're winning. They're winning. That's the important thing.
And what I'm going to say, Corey, to that from last year, the one difference is that was a dude who wasn't scared last year.
Exactly.
That dude was slinging the ball. There wasn't fear in the decision making. It was I trust what I can do, and I'm slinging.
Do you
the
think
fucking
Rattler's scared, or it's kind of more like what you said? He's having a hard time getting to the second and third reads because I don't think he plays with fear. I think he plays pretty tough, but I don't think
he trusts. I think it's both. What you're saying is exactly right. I think once he gets to the second and third reel, he's questioning himself and he's tentative. So I think that's what's hurting him. He's not just trusting his arm and trusting his talent. Once he sees that first read's not there, that's when a little, I don't want to say he freaks out. I think he just gets tentative when he's going to 2-3 down the line and he's having trouble seeing the whole field. And I think that's the difference. I think Drake May sees it, throws it. There's no doubt in his mind.
I think too. I was going to say, what you're saying reminds me of that.
Let me say this real quick, though. I don't like that you lumped in toughness with fearlessness there, because they're mutually exclusive things. Like Rattler's tougher than a $2 steak,
right?
But that
I didn't say
doesn't
tough.
equate
I
to
said
him.
tentative.
No, I said
tentative.
Not you. I'm talking about Corey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is, like, Rattler's tough as shit. Like, I'm never going to question Rattler's toughness. He'll stay there. He'll take that hit. But I don't think he is fearless with the passes. I do think he doesn't. He gets past his first read, and he's kind of like, all right, I don't know if I have this. I'm not going to throw it. He errs on the side of caution.
That's fair.
But he's tough as nails.
Yeah, his toughness factor on Madden should be 100 or 99.
It should be in the 90s. Exactly. It's like if you could take that part of his game, like if you could take the toughness out of him and put it into Shuck's body, you'd probably have a really good starting quarterback. Because what is the biggest knock on Shuck? He panics when there's any pressure and throws the ball. But now we haven't seen it in the NFL yet because we haven't seen him play.
Right.
But that was the knock on him in college. He
Yeah,
gets scared. It's like Jared Goff. I watched golf last night. He dropped back the second the play wasn't there. He just threw it in the ground because he's not taking the hit. That's Shuck right now. That's the book on
yeah.
Shuck. But we
I
got to
think
see.
another thing I've noticed with not Shuck, with Rattler, and this is kind of going back to your training wheels point, Nick, because it is interesting. You know what he was 0-10 as a starter. Now he's one in
1-11.
1-11. So he's getting pretty close to having a full number, like a full season's worth of games as a starter under his belt. And so you kind of look at, like, if you look at rookies that play right away, okay, they've had, and then you look at to their sophomore year, how do they do in year two? It's because, okay, they've had 17 games as a starter to this point. So he's getting close to that anyway. So it would be a good break point to say now is time to ramp up. But one concern, or one thing I need to see out of Rattler, because I do think he's kind of positioned himself almost perfectly to where his play on the field's not bad enough to justify pulling him yet. The only reason you would pull him is to say, we have this guy we invested a second round pick in, and we got to see what we have. Because right now, that's the only reason you're going
Agreed.
to bench him.
Yeah.
The only one. So
It's a
his
pretty
play on the
big fucking
field.
reason, though, man. That's a really big
Well,
reason.
it is, but that 100% plays into either A, Kellen Moore's mindset, or B, what is Mickey Loomis telling Kellen Moore about what he thinks he needs to see out of the guys that are on his roster. But I think one thing that Rattler, if he wants to throw down the gauntlet on not getting pulled this year, I think it's, you mentioned the fearlessness, but I've noticed, I think he's still a little slow on the processing. He said he's trying to be decisive with the
No
throws,
question.
and there's some he's decisive on, but even the first reads, the ball, I think the strong arm can cover up the flaws in getting the ball out quick enough. And it doesn't mean like he's holding it. When you hear people say that, or if people hear me say that, they might think like, well, he's not just a statue back there. He's not pumping it. He's not double clutching it. No, he's not doing that. But the milliseconds are so important in the NFL game. You gotta throw the ball. And when there's an out route, if there's a route he feels comfortable in and he knows it's there, he gets that thing out. So it's about 50-50. But there's some plays where I feel like if he throws it a half second sooner, it's a completely different play, even on the first read. So that's one part that I haven't really seen change. I think there was even some throws yesterday that ended up being good throws, ended up being good plays. But, if the ball's let go half a second sooner, it makes a huge difference. Might sound nitpicky, but that's a thing you need to see if you're going to make that jump from the bottom half to the top half.
Agree. I think, I think he's done okay in the first read, though. He's completing almost 69% this year. But it's hard to say. You can definitely say some of those first read throws are not fully accurate. Like
Right.
there's no debating that.
I think
I think this
timing
game's
begets accuracy too.
probably a bad example for what he's been all season, though. There just weren't a lot of instances of that this week, particularly for the season. No question. This week, man, those throws looked really good for the most part to me.
Yeah. No,
And
and
I've
that's the
been a
thing.
big negative on him. You know my stance.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
no,
think he's the guy. But go ahead. I
no, I was
just
going
think
to say,
this
like, I mean,
was
I've been critical on his lack of accuracy, and so it wasn't a lack of accuracy at all this week. Like when he threw it towards the target this week, most of the time, except for maybe one pass, it hit the target. I mean, it hit the target of Olave's hands 4 times and came out.
yeah.
And so he was doing that. For me, it's more of like even the completions. I think because we're not talking about is he good enough to keep us in the games. He's proven he's good enough to keep us in games. We're talking about is he good enough to be the guy, like the franchise guy, the guy that you're gonna 100% pass or not even think about drafting a QB for because you have him. And I think to make that jump, he's got to show that balls are coming out with timing. The accuracy is getting better, sure, which is actually a pretty big feat in and of itself because that's something you don't always see actually improve. But sometimes a lot of times, just the timing of the throws affects the accuracy of the throw, or it affects how many yards the guys are getting after the catch. But I agree with you overall. I think this one was a tough one to kind of digest. It was a little bit of like I think the middle of the game became kind of like a snooze fest. It was like it really was kind of slogging along there. And that's kind of, I think that's just, look, I think that's the way that bad teams stay in games. It kind of is. Our worst games during the Breeze Peyton era were when it was like, God, what are we doing? Why is this team still hanging around? This game is a snooze fest. And then they're just close enough to pop you at the end. But yeah, I think we saw improvement out of Rattler, but everybody else let us down. Speaking of letting us down, I think I missed. We know I letting us down. My lock, it failed again. Sorry, guys. Although I will say I did help Bruce out by locking in that he was not going to win the Euro Millions. I think he won €2. So that's something. Okay.
Technically, that's a win, I think.
Also, I've been it's been requested of me through the Saint City Meet Discord that I lock in. This is a first, and it's quite historic for the locks. That I lock in a gender for a gender reveal.
Wow.
Which will be quite interesting.
So
which will be quite interesting. I mean, if we want to prove if there's a higher power at play, that one just might prove it and affect the life of a young family. But
well, hey, before we talk more about the locks and your success with them, let me give a rundown of the tally. So we all picked the Patriots to win, so we all get a point there. Nick actually nailed the offensive player of the game with Rattler. Defense, I think we said Godshaw was the consensus. None of us picked him. So Nick gets 2 points, bringing him up to 7.5. I get 1 point. I'm up to 4.5. Corey gets 1 point. He's up to 3. And then the previously mentioned locks, you are now negative 300.
It only takes one,
Well, here's the thing, though. Nick's been around Paul. So do we have any? How does Paul feel about the lock so far?
Yep. And thanks again for listening to the 28-3 podcast.
Whoa. Hold on. I think we got
Paul
something
has
fun
requested to try and change Corey's fortunes, that the lock chain will now include a labubu for Corey.
No, I don't know what a labubu is. So can you?
It's exactly what you're looking at. It's a creepy ass doll.
So it's just a stuffed animal.
No one knows.
They're keychains. They're my daughters each have one. I don't know why kids like them. They're scary.
Well, now Corey has one for Corey's locks, and he has to wear it every time.
I protest.
At least until he gets a lock correct. That was the stipulation.
Hold on. Do we get to add more of these labubu things if every time he misses?
That's a no. Those things are like $40.
And they're hard to find. So I don't think we'll be adding more labubus because Corey's already in debt up to his eyeballs.
The labubu will be... I'm not in any... I didn't put any of my money on this.
Corey, this is the screen grab right here. Look at the screen.
We should have put Corey for ALS on the forehead of this thing, I think.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely the screen grab, though, for the episode.
He does not care about people with ALS. That is clear.
But
Labubu's going to bring us back.
I mean, it's it is still gambling in a way.
So you will have a new keychain this week, and I will do my best to get it removed when you hit a lock. So Friday's a big day for Corey because otherwise he's wearing children's keychains for the foreseeable future. So study
week
up.
By week. I mean, every week I got a chance now. It used to just be a lock, and now, even it's under protest, but it's a chance to have a lock and a not labubu on the channel.
We have to respect the wishes of our sponsor.
That's fair.
What he says goes with this. So this is his segment.
Look, the Norton Leatherman Spine Center of Louisville, Kentucky is getting a lot of publicity or mentions out of this. It's almost like, when a team is so bad, like the Bills when they're good, or like the Tom Brady Patriots, the Drew Brees Saints, they would lead Sports Center because we were so good. But the other teams they would show would be, is this the week the Detroit Lions are going to get the first win of the year? So,
would you say the Saints are worse or Corey's locks are the worst?
My locks are worse than the team right now, but we are unfortunately mirroring each other quite interesting to
No,
me.
no,
I
the
mean,
team has a win.
the team has a
You don't.
win, but we've been close. We've been close every week. You know, with
Close
33.
only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware. Trust me, I'm aware. If we
All
could,
right,
if
you're
there was an
wearing it.
almost
You're
lock,
wearing it. So, like, a lot of pressure for this week. We need something good, Corey.
yeah, I think there's that. Now there's added pressure every time I have a damn Labubu on the chain. God, y'all suck. Thanks, Paul.
Corey's Labubu.
Lock. No, I'm not going to do it. No, doesn't work.
La Cuckoo.
You're gonna have to work it into the caption somehow, so you might as well keep
Well,
cranking on it.
it's basically like, what's it going to be? A lock or a Labubu?
There it is.
That's perfect. I like
Lock
that
or
a
Labubu.
lot.
Ooh, I just thought of a good idea for a shirt now.
All right.
But
Corey, you
scales.
got a hit, man, because you got your own special shirt featuring just you and your locks that is
Dude,
just
you don't
ready
think
to
I
be
want to
unveiled
hit?
upon the public.
I want to
I
raise
mean,
some money
apparently you
here for
don't
Team
because I've been
Gleason.
teasing it for 4 weeks now.
I would love to hit one of these. I thought it was low hanging fruit with Travion, and now I understand why Pats fans are so pissed at Vrabel. For
Real
not
quick, I'm
giving.
going to say, Corey, as you know, I liked that pick, and he did get the carries necessary to get those yardage. If he just
Yeah,
averaged like 3.7, I think you would
he
have
had,
hit
he had 9 carries, 27 yards,
20. Oh, he
and
only had 9. I thought he had 10 carries. I'm
he
sorry,
had
but
9.
okay, so he would have
Yeah,
needed 4 yards of carry, but 4 yards of carry gets you right on the number, and he
yeah.
couldn't get you 4 yards of carry.
I was surprised we didn't let him loose for even like one. He had a 7 or 8 yard gain. I was like, oh,
Yep,
well, okay, well, that was
we
something.
got a
Because it
chance.
was a perfect for me. It was a good lock for a fan too, because it was just like, all right, Travion, just get your yards, get it over with. Let me enjoy the game. You know, in like 33, that's not like a game killer. It's not like I predicted him. You know, like James Cook would have been like, I would have had to predict him to have 70 something yards, which he did. But that's a game changer. The other one I was close to didn't do it was Taysom. That would have been a good one. 1 carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown, our only touchdown. But it's hard to predict anybody to get a touchdown on this team. So, you know.
Yes, it
I didn't hate
is.
the pick. I liked the Josh Allen pick too. I'm not
That's what I'm
hating on all
saying.
your locks, but
The,
you got to get a win at some point.
these picks have been much closer than the ones I picked last year. That's why it's just
I tried to talk you out of the Josh Allen one because he screwed me on a parlay the week before, and I needed him to get like one more yard, and he couldn't do it.
yeah. I didn't think Lightning was going to strike twice, so there you
Yeah,
go.
it is what it is.
But
But the
we'll
pressure
see
is
what
on, and I'm curious if this lock is going to involve Dennis Allen in any way, shape, or form, or his defense.
I'm tired of trying to bet anything on Dennis Allen. To be honest, might leave him to f out of this.
There you go. Do what you got to do, man. Just don't let the pressure get to you.
I mean, if I could lock in Dennis Allen choking, that'd be great. But it's not exactly on FanDuel.
Well, I think you need to get into the lab and find something good. Make it an exciting
You
one.
can
You
bet
got to hit
against
an
him.
exciting one. Yeah,
I
you could
just want to
take
hit one
like
at this point. I don't care if it's the most boring, like within the odds. Like I got to hit one. I just got to hit one at this point. It will be exciting to hit one. It won't matter what it is. If it hits, it will be exciting that it hit.
we're gonna get a nice
That's
bottle
true.
of bubbly for when you finally do hit. We'll crack it open on
Oh
air.
no, our sponsor has a plan for that, so hold tight.
Oh, does
He's got a
he?
plan for
Wow.
If I
if
hit
Corey
one,
actually hits a lock. Yes, he's got something in mind. We'll keep it close to the vest until you actually hit one, but there is something planned.
pulling out all the tricks. We got Labubus. We got victory plans already set for whenever
See,
it
that's why
happens.
he's a great sponsor, right
He's a
there.
fantastic sponsor.
He's rooting
Yes.
Paul
for you, dude.
Zaleski.
He's rooting for you a lot.
I know that. Yeah, I do know this. He's a big fan and a great supporter to have in our corners. So
Hey,
try not to let you down again here, Paul.
much like that beach trip in Seaside a couple years ago. He had tried to help you out then. He's
Yeah,
trying to help you out now.
yeah. He opened a lot of doors for me on that beach trip. That was nice.
Yeah. As, as he should have.
Yep. Safety first.
That's right.
So with that, I think we went over our tally. Max got in his jab about how many dollars I've lost in the locks, and we went through another one score Saints loss. But like you said, we got Dennis Allen next week. We'll be coming through with the preview of the Saints versus Bears on Friday. But y'all got anything else to add before we wrap it up?
Nope,
Yeah,
I'm
Nick,
good.
impressive effort in fantasy football this week. 25 points. That was
I
outstanding.
scored 25.
You scored 25.3. If you were going to go that low, you couldn't have at
Just
least had
three more points, man. Come on.
3 more points, dude, for the screenshot. You could have done it for the screenshot, man. Come on.
I tried. I'm playing all backups. I don't know
Or
what
at
to
least
tell you.
20
I did my
flat.
best.
I mean, score 0.03 less. Whatever.
We'll talk when we meet in the playoffs when my people are healthy. Okay.
Hey, I'm missing half my team too, pal.
Now
Look,
you're
I'm missing
talking
my
like
whole team.
now you're talking like a locksmith. Look out.
Watch out. I'm talking like a Corey.
You know, it's funny though. His lock will hit before yours.
I might win a fantasy football championship before I hit a lock. So we'll see.
You've already done
the
that.
other two
So.
people on the. Oh, Corey won what year? 3 years ago?
2 years
Well,
ago.
no, hold on. There's an asterisk there because Justin conceded it. They worked on a deal to split the winnings, and Justin gave Corey the title.
But what was it? He couldn't
It
get
was
his
when
guy in.
DeMar Hamlin almost died on the field.
Oh yeah, he had
And
guys in
that's
the
right.
canceled game.
Yeah, so
Well,
I
that's
was
a
yelling
fair
at Justin
concession, I
about
feel
that.
like.
So, but
He shouldn't have started
either
any
way,
Bengals or Bills.
Hey, the last 3 winners in our league are sitting right here on the screen, so it's all good. We each have a title. Well done.
This is true. Shout out to the
That's
rest
true.
of the league.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Notice sent.
Thanks, Max. Now none of us will win this year since you said that.
That's
Hey,
for
man,
sure.
You just announcer cursed us. God damn it. Anyway, all right, we're gonna wrap this one up. We'll be coming at you with the preview, and we'll see if the lock I have next week is gonna be the lock. First one of the year, and also now it's going to be the lock to remove the Labubu from the chain, which is something I never thought I would say out loud in any forum. So anyway, with that, we're going to end this, and thank you all for listening to the 28-3 podcast. Who dat?
Who dat?